Yesterday was my fiancée's birthday, and instead of blowing out candles, she blew up my entire life. Truth is, I thought I was planning the perfect surprise for her. Something she would never forget. Because that's the kind of guy I pay attention. I listen. I take notes when she drops little hints about what she wants. And guess what she had been hinting at for months? A luxury trip. 5-star. The kind of getaway you see in magazines. Not gonna lie, I couldn't really afford it. But I told myself love is about sacrifice. Right? You ever had that thought? If you give more, if you stretch yourself a little further, maybe they'll see how much you care. That's what I did. I moved money around, pulled from savings, skipped things for myself, all so she could live the lifestyle she said she deserved. And she didn't say it softly either. She looked me dead in the eye one night and said, "If you really love me, you'll fund my lifestyle. I don't want to struggle like my parents did." That should have been a red flag. Really should have, but I brushed it off. I told myself it was stress, or insecurity, or maybe just her way of saying she wanted stability. And I'm thinking, isn't that what an engaged couple is supposed to build together? Stability? A future? So I said yes. I said I'd take care of it. I worked overtime, cut back on little things. And I booked that trip, flights, hotel, all inclusive. I even picked the place she had circled in a magazine one night. The one she pointed at and said, "Someday, I wanted to be the guy who made her, someday, come true." And the night before she left, she kissed me, held my face in her hands, and said, "You're the best. This is exactly why I chose you." And you know what? Those words felt like gold. They kept me from questioning why she suddenly insisted it should be a girls' trip. Why she didn't want me to come along. She said she needed time to recharge before wedding planning got crazy. That she'd be back in a few days refreshed and ready to dive into life with me. And I believed her. I mean, why wouldn't I? She was my fiancée, the woman I had promised to marry, the woman I thought was building a future with me. So I kissed her goodbye, loaded her suitcase into the car, and waved as she left, holding in my chest the excitement of giving her something so special. What I didn't know, what I couldn't even imagine, was that she wasn't going on that trip with girlfriends. She wasn't going to recharge. She wasn't going to think about our wedding. She was boarding that plane with another man. And while I sat at home, eating leftovers and working extra hours to cover the bills, she was sipping champagne at a rooftop bar with him. I didn't find out right away. No, the universe waited until I had convinced myself everything was fine before it ripped the blindfold off. 3 days into her trip, I was scrolling mindlessly when a buddy sent me a screenshot. It was from her Instagram story, one I hadn't seen because she'd accidentally set it to private for me. There she was, glowing, holding a glass of champagne in one hand and a man's hand in the other. And here's the kicker, the caption read, "Living the dream I deserve." My dream? My money? My trip? I stared at that photo so long my phone screen dimmed. I wanted to believe it was fake. Some kind of mistake. I wanted to believe that arm around her wasn't what it looked like. But then another photo came through. Poolside, her in a designer swimsuit I'd never seen before. His sunglasses reflecting her smile. They looked like a couple on honeymoon. And guess what hotel they tagged? The exact 5-star resort I had booked. My name on the reservation. My card on the bill. I felt like my chest was caving in. I was angry, really angry, but also numb, like my body couldn't decide whether to scream or shut down. And here's the thing. You ever have that moment where betrayal hits so hard you can't even cry? That was me, just staring, just waiting for the screen to change. And the worst part, I hadn't even heard the half of it. Because what she was doing on that trip, what I found out next, made everything so much darker. Truth is, after seeing those pictures, I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I just lay there on the couch staring at the ceiling, phone in my hand, scrolling back and forth between the screenshots like maybe if I looked long enough, they'd change into something else. I mean, denial is powerful, right? You ever stare at something so painful you try to convince yourself it's not real? That was me, not gonna lie. Part of me even thought, maybe he's just a stranger. Maybe she's just being friendly. Maybe I'm overreacting. But then I remembered the caption, "Living the dream I deserve." And suddenly I realized, she wasn't even hiding it. She was celebrating it, using the trip I paid for, the money I sacrificed, to fund her fantasy life with another man. The anger came in waves. First I felt sick, like my stomach was twisting. Then I felt hot, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped my phone. I was angry, really angry, but beneath that anger was shame. Embarrassment. You know what I mean? Like suddenly I was the fool everyone else could see but me. And I hated that feeling more than anything. So I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted her, no response. Hours went by and then finally, late in the morning, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. Don't overreact. He's just a friend. Just a friend. My heart dropped, but my blood boiled at the same time. Because who takes just a friend on a luxury vacation paid for by their fiancé? Who holds hands by the pool? Who clinks champagne glasses in matching robes with just a friend? I fired back a message. Are you cheating on me? I stared at the typing bubble, waiting, hands sweating, and then her reply came. 6 words that split me in two. You don't give me enough attention. Attention. That's what she called it. Not money. Not gifts. Not love. Attention. I laughed, an empty, bitter laugh that echoed in the silence of my apartment. Because what had I been doing if not giving her attention? I rearranged my whole life to provide for her. I cut back. I sacrificed. I thought about her every single day. But in her mind, it wasn't enough. And here's the thing, she didn't even deny it. She didn't say, no, I didn't cheat. She said, you don't give me enough attention. And guess what? That was an admission. That was her saying yes without saying yes. I couldn't breathe. I sat there gripping my phone like it might break in my hand. Wondering how someone I loved so much could turn around and cut me like that. Hours passed before I heard from her again. Another message. This time longer. She said I was being insecure. That I was ruining her trip. That if I loved her, I'd trust her. And I'm thinking, trust you? When you're flaunting another man on the trip I funded. You ever had someone gaslight you so bad you start questioning your own reality? Trust me, you don't want to know what that feels like. It's like drowning in plain sight. That night I didn't eat. I didn't even move. I just sat by the window watching cars pass. Thinking about all the times I ignored the signs, when she said she needed girls' nights more often. When she suddenly had new clothes I hadn't seen before. When she brushed off calls with excuses. I told myself she was stressed, busy, tired, but truth is, she was building another life behind my back. The next day, another picture surfaced. This one wasn't from her story. It was from a mutual friend who spotted them at the airport. Boarding a helicopter ride over the ocean. My fiancé and this guy. Arms around each other, laughing like newlyweds. My phone buzzed with the message attached. Hey, thought you two were supposed to go together? And that's when the humiliation became public. It wasn't just me anymore. Other people knew. Other people saw. And that's when I realized the betrayal wasn't just private, it was a spectacle. And not gonna lie, that's the moment something in me broke. Because once betrayal leaves the shadows and becomes gossip, there's no turning back. And here's the part one didn't know then. Her return home wasn't going to bring closure. No, it was going to open up wounds I didn't even know I had. Because when she walked back through that door, suitcase in hand, sunglasses on like nothing had happened, the things she said next made me realize just how far gone she really was. When she finally came back from that trip, I thought maybe guilt would be written all over her face. Maybe she'd stumble over excuses. Maybe she'd avoid my eyes, but truth is, she walked in like she was returning from a business meeting, suitcase rolling behind her, designer sunglasses on, smiling like nothing happened. And not gonna lie, that smile cut me worse than the photos. She dropped her bag by the door, leaned over, kissed my cheek, and said, baby, I missed you. I just stared at her, stared and waited, silence hanging between us heavier than anything I could have said. She looked around the apartment, humming like she was home, then finally asked, why are you acting weird? And that's when I lost it, not yelling, not throwing things, but with this coldness I didn't even know I had. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder of screenshots, and slid it across the table toward her. She froze. You ever see someone's whole mask slip in a single second? That was her. The fake confidence drained from her face. Her smile faltered. Her hands trembled just slightly. But she tried to recover. She pushed the phone back toward me and said, this isn't what it looks like. And I laughed. I laughed so hard it scared even me. Because if there's one thing I knew, it was exactly what it looked like. I asked, who is he? She didn't answer. I asked again, louder this time, who is he? And finally she muttered, a friend, a friend. Again, that word, that pathetic word, felt like gasoline on a fire. I was angry, really angry, and I'm thinking, if he's a friend, why are you holding his hand? Why are you toasting champagne? Why are you staying in a suite I booked with him? And then she said something that still echoes in my head. She said, you don't understand, he makes me feel alive. You're too focused on money, on responsibilities. He gives me freedom. Freedom. She used my sacrifices, my hard work, my commitment as an insult. Like the very things I did to give us a future made me the problem. And guess what? At that moment I realized she hadn't just betrayed me. She despised me. She saw me as her safety net, her ATM, her provider, while he was her excitement, her thrill, her escape. I felt my hands shaking, my jaw clenching, and for a second I wanted to scream. But instead, I went quiet. You ever go so quiet it scares the other person more than yelling would? That's what happened. She started crying, real tears now, saying she made a mistake, that the trip got out of hand, that she didn't mean to hurt me. And I'm thinking, you didn't mean to hurt me? You meant to drink champagne, ride in helicopters, swim in infinity pools with him, but you didn't think about me once? Not gonna lie, I almost felt pity for her in that moment. Almost. But then she tried to twist it. She said, if you'd given me more attention, I wouldn't have needed this. And that was it. That was the dagger. She wasn't sorry. She was blaming me for not funding her fantasy fast enough, for not giving her enough spotlight, for not being the man she thought she deserved. I told her to leave. She refused. She said she loved me, that we could fix this, that no one else would ever love me the way she did. And I just stared at her, stared and waited, until finally she packed up and stormed out. My apartment door slammed so hard the picture frames rattled. I thought that was the end. I thought she'd be gone for good. But here's the thing, betrayal doesn't always leave quietly. Sometimes it lingers, sometimes it festers, sometimes it comes back stronger. And what she did next, it wasn't just betrayal anymore. It turned into humiliation on a scale I never expected. A few days passed after she stormed out, and I thought maybe that was it. Maybe I'd finally be able to breathe without feeling that weight in my chest. But truth is, betrayal has a way of echoing even when the person is gone. I was sitting at my desk, half distracted at work, when a notification popped up on my phone, her name tagged in a photo. Not by me, not by her, by him, the same guy from the luxury trip. And guess what it was? A shot of the two of them at some rooftop lounge in the city, holding hands across the table, wine glasses raised, captioned, the start of something real. My stomach dropped. I mean, the audacity. Right? She had just been in my apartment crying, begging, blaming, and now she was out there letting the whole world see what she was doing. You ever had that moment where humiliation becomes public? Where your private pain suddenly has an audience? Trust me, it stings in a way you don't forget. I was angry, really angry, but more than that, I was embarrassed. Friends started messaging me, screenshots. Little, are you okay? Texts. Pity disguised as concern. And I'm thinking, do they see me as a fool now? Do they wonder how I could have been so blind? Not gonna lie, I almost wanted to disappear. Just shut the world out. But then something in me snapped. I decided if she wanted to make it public, if she wanted to flaunt the betrayal, then maybe I should stop protecting her. I went through my phone, through the receipts, the screenshots, the proof of everything, and I sent it, not to the whole world. Not yet, just to a few people in our circle. The ones who had already seen the photos and were whispering anyway. And you know what happened? The whispers turned into outrage, but not at me. At her. At him. Suddenly they weren't the glamorous couple showing off luxury trips. They were the backstabbers who betrayed someone who had done nothing but love and support. The shift was instant. Messages poured in. Man, I had no idea it was that bad. She really did you dirty. I can't believe Mark would do that to you. Yeah, his name was Mark. My so-called friend. The guy the first trusted to stand beside me at my wedding. And now he was standing beside her. In designer clothes I probably paid for. And here's the thing. Seeing their names dragged through the mud should have felt good. Right? Like justice. Like karma. But it didn't. It felt hollow. Because no amount of people siding with me could erase the image burned into my brain of her laughing on that trip. Of him sliding his arm around her in my seat. A week later, she came back again. Not to apologize this time. Not to beg. To fight. She banged on my door, demanding I stop spreading lies about her, claiming I was ruining her reputation. And I just stared at her, stared and waited, until she broke the silence and said, "You'll regret this. No one's going to want you after this." That line, it almost made me laugh. Because if there's one thing I'd learned, it's that I'd rather be alone than chained to someone who measures love in dollars and vacations. But I didn't say that out loud. I let her rant, let her spit venom, and when she finally paused to catch her breath, I said one sentence that shut her down: "The truth doesn't need my help to ruin you." She froze, eyes wide, like she hadn't expected me to stand so firm. Then she left again, slamming the door so hard the frame cracked. And guess what? That should have been the end. But it wasn't, because the final twist, the one that would flip everything on its head, came when I found out she had one last trick up her sleeve, and it involved money I didn't even know she had taken. So here's how the final blow landed. I was sitting at my kitchen table one night, bills spread out, calculator in hand, trying to figure out how to dig myself out of the hole I'd already put myself in because of that luxury trip, when I saw something that didn't make sense. A charge on my account. Not just one charge, multiple. Thousands. At first I thought maybe it was fraud. Maybe my card had been hacked. But when I called the bank and asked, they told me the payments were authorized by me. Except I hadn't made them. I dug deeper, pulled up statements, and that's when I realized she'd gotten into my account, set up transfers to herself while we were still engaged. Truth is, my stomach dropped so fast I almost fell out of my chair. You ever have that moment when betrayal stops being emotional and becomes financial? When it literally empties your pockets while it's breaking your heart? Not gonna lie, that hit harder than anything. I was angry, really angry, because now it wasn't just lies. Not just cheating, it was theft. Straight up theft. I confronted her. I sent screenshots, receipts, everything. And guess what she said? She laughed. Actually laughed. Her exact words. "Well, you always said you wanted to take care of me." That sentence, it burned into me. Like all my sacrifices, all my hard work, all the times I skipped things for myself just to make her smile, reduced to a joke. I told her she had to pay it back. She told me she wouldn't. I told her I'd go to the police. She dared me to. And here's the thing, I thought about it. I thought about lawyers, courtrooms, dragging this whole ugly mess into the light. But then I thought about the truth I already had. The photos, the messages, the public humiliation. And I realized, she had already ruined herself. I didn't need to do anything more. So I blocked her, everywhere, changed my passwords, closed accounts, built walls where bridges used to be. And for the first time in months, I sat in silence that didn't feel heavy. It felt freeing. Yeah, I lost money. I lost trust. I lost the future I thought I had. But I gained something too. I gained clarity. I gained the strength to walk away when every part of me wanted to hold on. And I gained this story, the reminder that love without respect isn't love at all. It's just control dressed up as romance. You know, people ask me if I'd ever take her back. My answer? No, not now, not ever. Because love doesn't demand you fund someone's lifestyle while they live it with someone else. Love doesn't drain you dry and then blame you for not shining bright enough. And I'm thinking maybe one day she'll look back. Maybe one day he will too. And they'll realize they lost the one person who actually cared. Who actually would have built something real. But by then, it'll be too late. And trust me, that's enough for me. So yeah, my fiancée demanded I fund her lifestyle. And then she took another man on the luxury trip I paid for. But in the end, she gave me something priceless, freedom. And if you've ever been there, if you've ever been betrayed by the one person you thought would stand by you, you know exactly what I mean. It hurts, it scars, but it also teaches. And sometimes the lesson is the only gift worth keeping.